Welcome to another deep dive with us. This time, we're heading out into the American landscape. Well, not literally, of course.
Right, we're talking paintings.
Paintings, exactly. Specifically, those created by the Hudson River School. These weren't just artists. They were pioneers shaping how America saw itself in the 19th century.
And they really captured the spirit of the times, all that change and expansion.
Absolutely. We'll be focusing on Thomas Cole, considered the founder of the movement, and his pupil, Frederick Edwin Church.
Both incredible artists, but with vastly different visions.
Yeah, and that's what's so fascinating. How did their contrasting views play out on canvas? But before we get to Church, let's start with Thomas Cole. He wasn't even American-born, was he?
Nope. Born and raised in England, right in the middle of the Industrial Revolution.
I can only imagine what that was like.
It was a tough time, especially for working families like his.
And you can see that experience reflected in his later work.
Oh, absolutely. It shaped his entire worldview.
So he comes to America seeking something completely different.
He was looking for untouched nature, a pristine landscape.
A kind of escape from the grime of industrial England.
Exactly. And for a while, he found it in the Hudson Valley.
But that didn't last long, did it?
Not with progress on the march. Think about it. The Erie Canal was about to open up the West.
And with it came the railroads.
Which brings us to a rather ironic twist.
I'm all ears.
The railroad ended up cutting right through Cole's favorite painting spot.
You've got to be kidding.
Nope. He was basically forced to watch as the symbol of industry disrupted the very landscape he cherished.
Talk about a personal encounter with the effects of progress.
It deeply affected him, as you can imagine, and it's all there in his art.
So we're not talking about just pretty landscapes here.
No, his paintings were filled with deeper meaning, a lot of symbolism and moral messages.
I read somewhere that he was a deeply spiritual person.
Oh, absolutely. He saw America's wilderness as a divine creation, something to be cherished and protected.
Which makes the railroad intrusion even more poignant.
Absolutely. It wasn't just about losing a nice view. It was like witnessing a desecration.
And this idea of desecration, did that influence any particular work?
Most definitely. You should look up The Course of Empire sometime.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one. 5 paintings, right?
Exactly. It's like a visual story, charting the rise and fall of civilization.
Whoa, that's some heavy stuff.
It is, but incredibly powerful. And the way he uses light and color, it's like he's painting a warning.
A warning about what?
About the dangers of unchecked ambition. You know, how the pursuit of progress can lead to destruction.
A cautionary tale for a young, rapidly changing nation.
Exactly. He saw the patterns of history repeating themselves from Europe to America.
And this brings us back to that contrast we talked about earlier.
Right, because then we have Frederick Church, his pupil.
Coming from a completely different world.
Completely. Church was American-born, wealthy. He was drawn to the grand, the spectacular, the sublime.
While Cole saw the wilderness as something fragile, something to be preserved.
Exactly. Church saw it more as a stage for human achievement.
I remember seeing one of Church's paintings of Niagara Falls in a museum. Absolutely massive.
Oh yeah, he loved working on a grand scale.
The detail was incredible. I felt like I was about to be swept over the edge.
He was a master of creating that immersive experience. Didn't he use dramatic lighting in his exhibitions?
I think so, to make the paintings even more
spectacular.
Yes, that's the word. He wasn't just an artist, he was a showman.
Absolutely. And audiences ate it up. It was a whole new way of experiencing art. Church really understood how to play with scale and perspective to create those awe-inspiring scenes.
And it was more than just technical skill, right? His work reflected the whole idea of manifest destiny.
Exactly. This belief that America was destined to expand westward, cultivate the land, build a great civilization.
So while Cole was sounding the alarm about human ambition,
Church was celebrating it.
It's like they represent those two sides of the American psyche always wrestling with each other.
The reverence for nature versus the drive to conquer and shape it to our will.
And these ideas weren't just confined to the art world, right? I mean, this was playing out on a national stage.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the debates happening then. Westward expansion, industrialization, America's role in the world.
Cole's paintings, with those warnings about the dangers of progress.
They would have resonated with people concerned about the cost of all that growth, the environment, social upheaval.
While Church's work, celebrating human achievement, conquering nature.
That appealed to those who saw westward expansion as, well, America's destiny.
It's amazing how two artists working at basically the same time could have such different interpretations of the same landscape.
It really makes you think, how much did their personal lives, their beliefs, shape what they put on canvas?
Well, Cole, coming from England, seeing the dark side of industrialization firsthand.
He'd naturally be more cautious, more aware of the potential pitfalls.
Whereas Church, born into wealth, benefiting from America's growth.
He'd be more inclined to see the wilderness as ripe for the taking, an opportunity.
And this difference, it even shows up in their choice of subjects, what they chose to paint.
Think about it, Cole. He often focused on these small, intimate scenes, details that captured the fragility of nature.
While Church, he went for those grand vistas, panoramic views, emphasizing the vastness of it all.
Like his Twilight in the Wilderness. Dramatic sky, glowing clouds, this untamed wilderness stretching out forever.
A visual representation of manifest destiny, you could say.
Exactly. Capturing that feeling of awe, the sense of possibility that westward expansion held for many.
But we can't ignore the other side of that coin, can we?
You mean the cost?
Yeah, the displacement of Native Americans, the exploitation of resources.
All the damage that came with industrial development.
Something that Cole, with his sensitivity to nature, was definitely more attuned to.
Oh, for sure. And it's important to remember that while the Hudson River School is celebrated for its beauty,
It also played a role in romanticizing westward expansion, sometimes perpetuating harmful stereotypes.
it's a complex legacy, reflecting both the beauty and the blemishes of America's past.
And it's surprising how relevant these themes still are today, this tension between progress and preservation.
Still grappling with those questions, how do we balance our needs with the needs of the natural world?
How do we define our national identity? What stories do we tell ourselves?
And that's the power of art, isn't it? It forces us to think critically, to confront those difficult questions.
Earlier you mentioned that the Hudson River School wasn't just about Cole and Church.
Right. There were many other artists contributing to this movement.
What about their collective vision? What kind of lasting impact did they have?
Well, their influence went far beyond just the art world.
In what way?
Their paintings shaped how Americans viewed their own country, instilled this love for nature, a sense of national pride,
They even influenced the development of landscape photography.
which emerged later in the 19th century, and well, it carries on that tradition of capturing the beauty of the American wilderness.
So these artists were true pioneers.
Not just in their style, but in their impact on American culture, how we see the world around us.
Speaking of seeing the world, their homes, their studios, they offer an interesting contrast too, don't they?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
Cole's home, Cedar Grove, it's this modest farmhouse tucked away in the Hudson Valley, reflects his simpler lifestyle.
Well, Church's home, Olana,
Grand estate, almost palatial, overlooking the same landscape.
two very different approaches to life and art.
You could almost say their homes were artistic statements in themselves, embodying their contrasting views.
It makes you wonder, did those landscapes shape them as much as they shaped our understanding of those landscapes through their art?
It's like a back and forth, a constant dialogue between the artist and the land.
It's like the Hudson Valley itself was part of their creative process. I'm curious, how did those specific landscapes, the mountains, the rivers, the forests, actually influence their approach to painting?
Well, it provided both the subject matter and the inspiration. Cole, for instance, was really drawn to those rugged Catskill Mountains.
He saw something in them, huh?
He saw the sublime, that feeling of awe, even terror, that you get when you're faced with the raw power of nature.
So he wasn't just painting the mountains, he was trying to capture that emotional experience.
Exactly. That feeling of being humbled by something so much bigger than yourself. And he did it through these dramatic contrasts.
Like what?
Think of towering cliffs against those peaceful valleys, storm clouds gathering over sunlit meadows. Even the way he painted, those delicate brushstrokes for the leaves, but rough textures for the rocks.
It's that interplay that makes his work so powerful, I think.
The light and shadow, the delicate and the monumental.
In Church, with his grand vistas, did he find inspiration in those specific features of the Hudson Valley too?
Oh, absolutely. He loved those sweeping views along the Hudson River, those vast expanses of water reflecting the sky, creating this sense of limitless space.
You can really see that in his paintings.
But he also had an incredible eye for detail. You look closely, you'll see these meticulously rendered trees, rocks, even individual blades of grass.
So he wasn't just about the big picture, he appreciated the small stuff too.
He was able to capture both the vastness and the intricacy, and that's what makes his work so compelling.
It's interesting how their paintings, rooted in this one specific place, the Hudson Valley, ended up influencing how Americans saw nature as a whole.
They really shifted perceptions. Before the Hudson River School, the wilderness was often seen as dangerous, something to be feared, conquered even.
But Cole, Church, they changed that.
They showed the wilderness as beautiful, a place for spiritual renewal, a source of national pride, artistic inspiration.
It's like they invented a new visual language for appreciating nature.
And it wasn't just about looks. Their work actually had a real impact on the way we interact with the environment.
Really? In what way?
While many people credit the Hudson River School with inspiring the conservation movement,
The movement that led to things like our national parks.
exactly, preserving wilderness areas. So they weren't just painting the landscape, they were helping to save it.
That's incredible. Makes you realize the power of art to not just reflect the world, but to change it. If you had to pick one key takeaway from our deep dive into the Hudson River School, what would it be?
That art is never created in a vacuum. It's a product of its time, its place, reflecting the social, political, even the environmental concerns of the artists.
And those concerns, they can still speak to us today.
Absolutely. And in turn, art has the power to shape how we understand the world around us, inspire us, challenge us. It can even change history.
This has been a fascinating look into the Hudson River School. Thanks for sharing your expertise with me. It's given me a whole new appreciation for these paintings. They're not just pretty pictures, they're like windows into another time.
Exactly. And they offer us a chance to reflect on our own relationship with nature, with progress, with how we see ourselves as a nation.
And to our listeners, I encourage you to seek out these paintings for yourselves. Visit a museum, go online, even better, take a trip to the Hudson Valley and see those landscapes in person. You might just start seeing the world a little differently. Until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep looking for those hidden depths beneath the surface of things. Thanks for joining us.